All right, so I bought this kit online from Blue Water Yacht, and it consists of these 3 small rope clutches that you could install on the deck and basically bring the mainsail halyard to raise the mainsail and lower closer to the cockpit. This is their picture online, and basically the kit comes with 2, or you can add an option of a 3rd clutch and bring every control back closer to the cockpit to not have to go on the deck and raise and lower the mainsail. So I got this in the package. I'll show you what we got. 3 rope clutches like this. They come packaged like this, neatly secured. And you got the blocks that you need up front to change the direction and basically control your mainsail. So they come with all the hardware and some pretty good instruction. I did get confused, but that's me being probably a very beginner at this, and I'll show you what I did not understand at first so you don't make the same mistakes. So basically when you get the clutch, it comes wrapped like this, held with the typical tire wrap underneath. I undid all that and was trying to, for the life of me, to figure out how this goes on the deck, because I felt flush mount like that. The idea is when you pull on the rope, on the line, sorry, the clutch will catch it and it won't release it until you pull on this lever. So when that's down and the clutch is engaged, I felt that by pulling on the line, it would disengage by simply pulling up, because you have a tendency to pull up, it would disengage it. So I was not satisfied until I realized my mistake, which is this piece under the package. It's not just for packaging, it's part of the system. So it's at an angle and it's supposed to be basically on your deck, and then you run the screws through both of them. I guess they do it like that so you don't have to use them, but in my case I will. And it basically raises the front to an acceptable operating position, as opposed to being flat on the surface of the deck like that. So don't do like me. I'll share my mistake. It took me about half an hour to finally figure that out by looking back online, and now I'm ready to tackle the install. So I've laid the various parts up on the deck to the approximate final location, just for me to get an idea of where things will go. And you see other parts up at the near the mast. So these 2 clutches will be mounted here, approximately a foot from the winch and this stopper here, and they'll be mounted, of course, on this wedge underneath to make the proper angle. And then further up on the deck, you see the block here that's going to turn the line towards the mast, and then this lifting block to basically use this as a halyard for the mainsail. Before starting this part of the project, I just simply changed my halyard, which was the stock white line, to a red line, simply because I want to start color coding my lines to make it easier when I sail with people who may not know all the terms. And to be honest, I'm also a beginner, so it's going to help me as well give shout out commands sometimes if needs be. So the first thing to do is to start with this lifting block, and the instructions state to be pretty much center with the mast, and to go about at the edge of the non-skid section here, and to of course clear the plug that I also need to replace as a future project. So this is going to go about in this location, and basically using these mechanical screw with the large washer to give it strength underneath, because this is going to pull down basically on the hull, and or on the deck I should say, and the other inside the McGregor, this is inside the foam area above the mirror. So we'll go inside and I'll show you that in a moment. So this is what it looks like from inside under the deck, inside the cabin, and you could see where the wire is for the mast plug, and that new bolt with no washer yet, or no nut, is basically the new one that I just passed through. So I could tell that everything's gonna clear those ribs that give the boat some strength. So I'm gonna leave that bolt in place to make sure I'm aligned and I'm exactly where I need to be. and basically start drilling the next one using the bracket as a template just for the initial punch, let's say. And now that I know exactly where I need to go, I could just keep going. So if you're like me, we get a bit finicky when drilling holes anywhere in the boat, obviously. So what I do is I'm gonna put another one of the mechanical bolts just through the hole, just to make sure I stay perfectly aligned with what I've done so far. And now that I have two pre-drill and two bolts in place, I know I could do the other ones with confidence. So as you know, I ordered this kit from Blue Water Yacht, and the front block on their picture was this block was slightly larger than this one that's on the Mac for the dagger board, and I feel it needs to be bigger because if not, when I run the line on this one and the dagger line is on this one, when they both come down here, they will likely rub on each other. And I thought at first I'll just offset this one a little bit that way, but then I'm starting to be at an angle and I don't like that. So I called them up or emailed them, and they say this is the equivalent because they ran out of the other one, which was also stainless steel. I'm not totally satisfied, I don't like it. This is exactly the same size as this, except it's double stack and it's really two single double stack. So I went on my local place and I bought these bigger one. I'll mount it here, and I bought two, so I'll double stack same way. And I don't need two right now, but I figured I'll buy two right away and double stack them in case I want a downhaul at one point or something else. Simply because if I wait a few years and then try to find the exact same bolt pattern, maybe they'll change. So I cough up a bit more money. They were thankfully on sale. Instead of 77, they were at 57. Ended up buying two. I'll mount that here, and I contacted Blue Water Sail to return this little thing here. Hopefully shipping and everything else won't cost me too much. If not, I'll end up having to keep them as a spare part and maybe replace this, which is aging. Eventually I'll have to replace this maybe. So that's the plan. Alright, so a little bit of progress. I took apart one of the two blocks that I'll end up stacking one on top of the other. Took the bottom plate and basically aligned it exactly where I want it to be, taking into consideration this block and making basically as straight as a line as I could. I figured I'll be using this one. It doesn't really matter, those are close together. So these are all single blocks, and in order to make a double stack, the only thing you have to do is really get longer screw, but take one of those little brand name on top of it. So you take the one off from the bottom and you leave the one on the top, and then you're in business. So that's what it's going to look like once it's installed. Right now it's really just sitting in the holes and holding barely by these bolts. But once I have some help to hold from above while I go below and put these, I'll of course put some 3M silicone, marine grade. Those don't come cheap, but almost $30 for a tube, but they're very worth every penny. And if you guys have some and you're always wondering how to keep it for later because you don't end up using a full tube, I'll give you my trick. So I got this trick from a guy in construction, not really in marine grade, but it's the same principle. And when you don't use a full tube of whatever caulking they have, I used to try to put saran wrap, elastic, all kinds of things to try to keep it from drying out. And when you think about it, this guy gave me the best trick. Is the best sealant you can find is right in your tube. So you just pour out a bit more, let it dry like that. So now this is from the last time I used it a few weeks or months ago, and actually I've had this tube for since last year. And when you're ready to use it, you just pull up and it breaks whatever was there, and the next thing that comes out is a fresh sealant. So no point in trying to find another way to seal your tube for the next time. You got the best sealant right in the tube, and you end up losing just this much every time. Okay, so now for the rope clutches, the instructions say to mount them about 12 inches from the winch. And as you can see, I did a dry mount here just to get a proper visual of what it would look like. And I think I want to stay as close to the center of the boat as I can, because when the line gets up there, I don't want it to get snagged into this railing here that you see. So I'll try to keep it as close to center as I can for this one. The one on the left will be for the daga board, the one on the right will be for the halyard for the mainsail. There you have it. So the manufacturer calls that we put some 3M adhesive 5200, which is quite strong adhesive, on top of using the mechanical screw to hold this in place. It's just to I guess help with the side pressure, because those clutches are holding all the weight basically of, in this case, my mainsail. So that makes sense. I'll do that now. Good. So one is done, and I'll do my best just to show the little dab I'm putting on each of the screw hole to make sure it's sealed when that bolt goes in. And also, I think it's important to put some on this thing. Alright, so as you know, the kit came with the third optional rope clutch that I got, and I meant to install it here, facing this way, somewhere in this area, just to help us when we have to maneuver this Genoa line here that controls the roller. But now that I thought about it, and I had to go back to the store, to the local store, and I noticed that they have this different type of rope clutch, exactly the same capacity, same model, but it's on a swivel, so you could pull in a different angle direction. So to figure out exactly where I want to use it and the best location, I think I'll put it on this side here, in line, close to the cleat that used to be my Genoa cleat. And now I'll use this and maybe re-secure it to the cleat if I think I need to. But more importantly, I won't put it directly against this nudge. I'll leave it a bit of a space, and I'll basically put it on the anti-skid part, just to leave some space here for dirt. And you know, when it rains, this I'm afraid would collect all kinds of debris. So I'll leave some space for easier cleaning, and then this could rotate like this towards the winch. So that's the location I chose, and let's go to the install. So to set up the unit for install, it's quite easy. There's one mechanical screw to remove that holds these two pieces together, and you remove that, and that just stays in the back. And then when you flip this around, because it rotates, you could put basically one screw at a time and keep rotating until you do all three screws that will hold this in place. Alright, so sometimes you get lucky, right? So I put the first screw here, like I said I would, and then the other two will be at an angle, one here and one there. And as you can see, I barely make it to be able to put that screw in. So even though my reason for putting this certain distance from the ledge on the deck was for maintenance purposes, I'm so happy I did that, because I would not be able to reach that screw. This would basically not turn all the way if it was resting on the side. So if ever you do that, guys, remember that when this thing rotates, it won't go all the way around. You don't need to operate it, but you do need certain degree of rotation to do the install. So sometimes you get lucky. I just did. So at the marine store, they proposed this install to use 3M 5200 as the adhesive and also sealant. So this will seal each of those holes, but also be used as an adhesive just to help basically this thing take the load that you're going to put on it. So you're not relying on just 3 screws, and this adhesive and all is only for permanent things, nothing that you want to take off later, because it's you're going to need some major strength and sanding and so on if you want to take this off. This is not your usual caulking. So putting this stuff on, I realized that I have to be careful. I don't know, I have a tendency to put too much caulking or anything like that, or glue. And obviously I don't need to put too much, or should not put too much, because I'll affect the way this rotates. So I'll be very gentle and reasonable in the amount that I put, and I'll put that on. Here we go. So 3 screws and a bit of 3M 5200 adhesive, and this will be able to swing. I'll basically use this range of motion here, pretty much. So that's gonna be done. There you go. So I complete the install to bring the controls from my mainsail back to the cockpit. So I've installed 2 clutches. I only needed one, of course, for the mainsail. The other one maybe in the future will be used for a downhaul if I figure I need one. But for now it's going to be used for the centerboard. And the centerboard is not installed yet, of course, because I have to put the mast down and then reinstall it. But you get the picture. So basically I'll be able to control the mainsail halyard from here, thanks to this new turning block. It's a double block, so that in the future if I want to put a downhaul, it's ready for it. And also a double up block, I guess it's called, for the halyard to go up and raise the mainsail. And on the other side, I had purchased 3 of the same model to put 2 there and 1 on this side, and then I changed my mind because here I prefer the swivel model. This is for my Genoa sheet, and used to just pull on it and wrap it here on the cleat, and now I'm going to be using the clutch for that purpose, so it stays in position until we release it. And I chose the rotating model because for about the same price I could reach the winch here. So after using it a few times while sailing, I also noticed that when I pull out the Genoa sheet to use the Genoa, if I do a couple of wraps of that furler line around the winch, it keeps the proper tension so it furls properly. So there we go, that's the install. It was simple enough for me to do, and I'm a beginner, so I'm sure everybody could do it. Cheers, guys.